or best students, right? What attribute did they have? I go, that's an easy answer. The answer is perseverance. They persevered. When the seller said, no, I don't want to buy your property, when their deal dropped out of contract, when the financing didn't come through, none of those guys and girls gave up.
Welcome to CREPN Radio for influential commercial real estate professionals who work with investors, buyers, and sellers of commercial real estate coast to coast. Whether you're an investor, broker, lender, property manager, attorney, or accountant, we're here to learn from the experts.
Welcome to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network CREPN Radio, episode number 111. This is the podcast focused on commercial real estate investment strategies. We do this through weekly conversations with commercial real estate investors and professionals who provide their experience and insight to help you grow your real estate portfolio. Thanks for joining us. My name is J. Darren Gross. Today my guest is Peter Harris. Peter is a commercial real estate investor, author, and mentor. In our conversation, Peter provides some examples of success his students have had. He describes what to look for when choosing a mentor and the one thing an investor must have to be successful. All this and more. But first, a couple of quick things. If you are on social media, reach out and let's connect. If you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter, look me up. You can find me under J. Darren Gross. That's the letter J, Darren spelled D-A-R-R-I-N, Gross, G-R-O-S-S. When you do, please let me know you listen to the show. Also, remember, our goal at CREPN Radio is to learn and share. So if you like what we're doing, you can do two things that will help grow the show. One, if you know somebody who might like the show, use the share button and share the show. And two, subscribe to the show. You can do this through either iTunes or Stitcher. And when you do, please leave a review. Lastly, if you're on LinkedIn, be sure to check out our group, Commercial Real Estate Pro Network. It's a great place to network with commercial real estate professionals. Let's get on to the show. My guest today is Peter Harris. Peter is a real estate investor. He's an author and a real estate mentor. If you've ever Googled real estate investing, you've probably come across some of his material, which is full of valuable information. His website is peterharrisrealestate.com, and it's, again, full of information. I recommend you check it out. He was also a guest on episode number 4 of CREPN Radio, and it's my pleasure to welcome Peter back. Peter, welcome to CREPN Radio.
I am so honored, Darren. Thanks for having me. I didn't realize I was number 4. That was many years ago, and I'm so honored to be, what am I today, number what?
I think this will be 111. I got to check and see in the queue, but yeah, we've been trying to do a weekly episode here, and glad to have you back, and things have changed a little bit. I think the one we did before may have even been live. That was I still try to learn how to flip the levers and turn the knobs and all that stuff. So
Great. No, thanks for having me. I'm so honored.
Well, before we jump into our topic today, if you could do myself and the listeners a favor and just share a little bit of your background.
Sure. Yeah, Darren, I'm based out of San Francisco, California. You probably knew that. I was an engineer for 12 years before I made the switch into full-time commercial real estate investing. I've been investing for about 14 years now, all over the States. I also coach and mentor beginning commercial real estate investors all across the country. It's my passion. I'm a husband, father, uncle, love my church family. And if I could fast forward to today, I get the honor and privilege to help people go from zero or a little to buying and owning cash flowing, life-changing commercial real estate. And I have the honor of mentoring, single moms, 65-year-olds with no retirement, and help them create retirements and create a financial future. So those things are my passion, my purpose, and my calling. To be a mentor, to be a servant leader to people willing to put in the work.
Oh, I love it. And as you shared with me just before we started, again, I want to say congratulations on your new marriage here.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's exciting stuff. If you're ready, I want to get into this today. Today we're going to talk about working with or how to find and working with a real estate mentor. And I've heard you talk about your relationship with a mentor. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit about your relationship with your mentor.
Sure. Well, I've had 4 mentors my entire life. I have one today. Probably the most notable one that maybe you're familiar with is Robert Kiyosaki, right? So he was my first quote-unquote famous mentor and changed my life. I share this story many times and online on YouTube, how he changed my life by challenging me, make a long story short, we were at a Rich Dad event, right? Where he had probably 20 people there. I was one of them. It was a close-knit group that he coached personally for 4 years. And we would just show up in Scottsdale and just meet there at the hotel and just, go from, start of the day all the way to 11 o'clock at night. Played this game called Liar's Poker. And is where you challenge your mindset, your boundaries, and after the game, I royally blew it. And so at the end of the game, I was sitting in front of him. He stood on a stool. He looked at me and he called me a loser. And here's my mentor calling me a loser.
Ouch.
And, it shocked me, shook me, right? And he said that because he wanted to motivate me. He could see all the potential in me. But he could see I was taking it easy. I was taking the easy road in life, and so he shook me, and from there, my real estate investing just took off. I needed that kick in the butt to get things going. So I've had other mentors. That my first mentor was Nick. When I was an engineer, he was the guy that believed in me, right? He was, and we all need someone to believe in us. We really do, right? So Robert was the guy that shook me. I had another mentor named Curtis, and he gave me the tools. See, Robert didn't give the tools. Robert's more like mindset. But this guy, Curtis, gave me the tools, the methodology, the strategy, and how to be successful in real estate. And my other mentor who brought me over the top, his name was Ron. And he had a multifamily portfolio that produced $83,000 a month, right? Wow. So significant cash flow. So he taught me how important operations are, right, in this business, and to know my monthly numbers, my operational numbers, and to know the numbers on the intimate level. He was amazing. So, several mentors in my life that have shaped my life for sure.
Awesome. Well, when you are working with I've got some kind of thoughts on this, and if you've got a direction you'd like to take this, I'm open. But I guess my curiosity is for our audience is who is a good candidate for working with a real estate mentor? Is it a beginner, somebody experienced? Is it cover the spectrum? Can you give some clarity on that?
Sure. I think the probably a more fitting question would be, who doesn't need a mentor, right?
All right.
I like to approach it that way, right? So you basically have 2 groups of people. You have the first group who perhaps own commercial real estate by default, maybe through an inheritance, been in the family for a long time, or perhaps you're the type of person you just want to buy one deal, and that's it, right? So you don't need a mentor, right? You don't need to invest in advisors to help you. You can figure it out on your own. You can hire a real estate agent, to help you find a deal, right? They close in a deal with you, and off they go, and you're on your own. So that's the first group. The second group is the group I work with, and these are the guys and gals that want to do commercial estate with a purpose, right? Do it full time. Want to leave your job. Want to build a retirement nest egg, or they just love commercial estate investing, right? The second group, you need a commercial estate mentor. It's going to cost you money, right? It's a big decision to make, but here's why it makes so much sense. See, mentoring provides you a shortcut. It's the fast track. I can look at my life. There's no way I would be where I am today without having a mentor. No way. Impossible, right? In fact, by me being a mentor, I have an unfair advantage. And, everyone complains about the lack of deals in the market. I get to look at hundreds of deals every week because I work with students and clients all across the country every day. So I get to see deals from the East Coast, West Coast, Northwest, Northeast, South, everywhere. I get to see it. And lastly, I get to oversee and close on deals every single month, right? So the person that would be a good candidate will be in that group, a person that needs an advisor to help them with evaluation, how to find deals, marketing, right? And here's the most important part, Darren. I'm currently working with a student who had a previous mentor, and the mentor was a very nice person. Helped my current student purchase 2 deals, but those deals have famously crashed and burned, and the reason why is there was no support after closing a deal. There was no support, right? Where you make money in commercial real estate is in the operations. Of course, when you buy it, it's really important how you buy it. But the operations, it's a business. You have people, you have utilities, you have the city, you have a staff. And if you don't teach them how to operate those things, it's too much of a learning curve. So the ideal person is a person that wants to do this full-time, person that perhaps doesn't have a retirement nest egg, and a person willing to put in the work.
Got it. No, I think you spoke to a lot there. Kind of from the nuts and bolts of finding deals and analyzing deals and closing deals and operating deals. It clearly it covers a lot of different aspects of real estate, and so if I gather right, I mean that's kind of what you do is when you work with somebody, you work with them to kind of develop their skills so they can recognize how to find and then analyze and determine if a property is an opportunity, and then beyond. And what I heard you say is follow through there at the end. Once they've closed the deal, is the operations.
Yes,
and
that's really important. Really important. One other thing I left out, just as important as everything else, is commercial real estate is a people business. It's a relationship-based business. Relationships in this business that you nurture and develop will help you raise money, will help you solve problems, will help increase your cash flow, will help you sleep at night. And one thing I focus on with my students in our mentoring company is a relationship. How to find relationships, how to nurture them, how to grow them, and how to honor them. That's, you often hear people say your real wealth is your network of people that you know. And that is so true in this business. I own a bunch of stuff, and I have a lot of problems everywhere, right? But guess how they're solved? By me reaching out to someone and I have a relationship with, and boom, solved. Right. That's how this business is.
No, so true. I know I've squirreled away a lot of time trying to solve something for myself, only to find out had I talked to somebody or asked somebody right away, they would have, all you do is this. Or call this guy. And so I'm guilty, been there, and recognize you got to call somebody, talk to people, and have somebody that, kind of a trusted, advisor or somebody that's in the know that you have a regular, a relationship with. I mean, I love the fact that you're talking about the relationships, because I think that's, in this day and age with the internet, you can Google anything, find anything, read about it, think you know it kind of thing. But until you are able to have a conversation with a voice of experience and gain some experience and, have some action and stuff. It's just words.
Yeah, exactly. One thing I have all the students do, and I really emphasize this, is you're right, Darren. We have the internet, we have email, we have texting, all these ways of avoiding human contact, right? And we have to remember that this business is a people business. People want to work with people they enjoy working with. So one secret to our business is after you speak with an agent or a property owner or some type of industry professional, guess what? And the conversation was meaningful, and you can foresee a business relationship. What we do is we have them send out a thank you note, a card, right? It's a card, and in the card, all of us say is dear Darren, just wanted to let you know I appreciate the time you spent with me today. All my best, Peter. We wrap it up, put it in an envelope, and we send it to the person. And guess what? Oftentimes they will call back and go, wow, that was very nice of you. That was very nice of you. Because no one sends letters anymore. So we want to be different, right?
Right.
And everyone, 100% have appreciated getting those letters. So when it's time to reach out to them for a reason, maybe wanting a deal or wanting some advice, whatever, guess what they would do? They will pick up the phone when they see your name on caller ID because you sent them that letter.
Right. No, I think there, like you said, it's some of the little things, and it goes back to just, creating an impression, creating a relationship. I think, in this instant age of Amazon Prime and, the ability to point and click and all that stuff, there's a false sense of, I'm going to invest in real estate and I'm going to do it today, and, that's not how it works there. Let me ask you, I got some other questions I want to kind of work through here.
Sure.
Is there a right time to engage a mentor, or maybe the question is, when you see some of the if you look at your students, is there a common kind of a point at which they've realized, after how long they've been either, reading, thinking, trying, working without, or that they go, I need a mentor?
That reminds me, prior to 2012, when I switched to a different athletic event, I was doing triathlons. And I got to the point where I was really struggling with the swim part, right? And actually the entire 3 events, right? I was really struggling. And someone said, Peter, you ought to get a coach, right? And I go, I've been, I'm older now. I know my body well. I know how to train. I have all these books, right? And but guess what? I was getting the same results, same time every event, and not improving, and actually feeling worse, right? And so I decided to get a coach, right? Her name was Rachel, right? And she's been, she's done a gazillion triathlons and has been a personal trainer and phenomenal athlete in person, right? And so we started working together, and guess what happened, right? Adjusted my diet, adjusted the way I did things, actually worked out less, right? And at the end of the day, got faster and had more fun, right? So when does a person need a mentor? Is when you get to a point where you can get no further. You're frustrated. Right.
No, it's well said, because I think that's exactly, or I guess my experience is kind of like, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, kind of a thing there. So makes sense. I think the other thing is, and we were talking just a little bit before we started the call, was market cycles. People have a sense of like we're near the top, or it's too high now, too low now, and you've mentioned you're getting opportunities, multiple opportunities all the time based on your relationship with your mentees. Is there a market time that you can speak to, perspective or people that are looking for, or I guess the question should be, how would you speak to a mentor, somebody looking for a mentor is with market timing?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. Market timing. So I've been through about three ups and downs through the last 20 years, and I'm looking forward to the next one coming, which I believe another 3 or 4 years. I think is coming again. It's all in a cycle. And imagine imagine the last peak was around 2006, 2007, right? And the average peak to peak time period is about 10 to 12 years, right? So we're at 2017, so we're about there until something else happens, right? So it's going to happen, right? Now, did you know that on the real estate curve, Darren, in one city, for both an apartment building and an office building, they can be on different phases of the real estate curve?
Sure.
It's very possible. Yeah.
Sure.
For example, an apartment building investment could be at the peak of the curve, but in the same city, the office building could be an expansion phase of the curve, right? So here's my solution. Focus, right? Focus on one asset type, right? At a time. Become good at one before investing in another. So for each asset type, you must consider the demographics, even the politics, supply and demand, social patterns. I call it taxation, jobs, income growth, right, and just general market sentiment. See, all these things to consider when you're investing in real estate, and you want to pay attention to a cycle. So you have apartments, you have office, retail, industrial, mobile home parks, self-storage. And they could all be kind of different, doing different things in a cycle. So that's why anyone, an average person, can do well in the ups and downs, in my opinion, only if you focus.
Yep. No, if you're constantly paying attention to the hot thing, you're not as opposed to understanding the cycle within the market of the focus. You're spot on. I mean, it's easy to get distracted, especially with all the information.
Yeah, some of the information that you hear on the news these days about the national market is doing this, the market is doing this, and there's no such thing as a national market, right? What happens in San Francisco in the apartments is completely different what's happening in San Francisco and New Mexico. Completely different, right? So what we have are submarkets.
Right.
And if you want to become really good and successful in commercial real estate, you have to understand your submarket.
Right. Along the timing, and again, I don't want to focus on timing, but more of timeline. How long, when somebody's looking to invest in real estate, is there a timeline for that you teach or talk with your students about, expectations? We've talked about the instant gratification mentality that's rampant in our society. Real estate, unless you're flipping, single families and you're buying, for pennies and able to make a quick flip, a lot of times it's a different kind of timeline. Can you speak to that a little bit?
So you mean in terms of timelines of exit strategies? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, just on expectations. I think is really kind of where what I was thinking.
Okay, well, on expectations, right? For example, I'll change a direction here. Let's say you want to become a commercial real estate agent. Okay, not residential, but commercial real estate agent, and you want to make it big there and make money, right? You can make a whole lot of money there, right? I've done it before myself, right? But guess how long it takes you? It takes you 3 to 4 years just to get, just to be able to pay the bills. It really does, right?
Right.
So that's being that's being an agent to get the clients going, get the experience, get the track record, to get things going. As a real estate investor, I would say you need to bust your butt for 1 year. right? 3 months, 6 months, 9 months is not going to get it. Not going to get it, right? So you need to take big action in commercial real estate because there's lots of competition and it's growing every single day, right? Back in 2003, did my first commercial deal. I did a 1031 exchange. There was a plethora. There was so many deals for me to choose from and to find a replacement property. These days, not the case.
Right.
Not the case at all, right? So if you think you're going to get into commercial real estate and closing your deal in 3 months, probably not going to happen, right? With the mentor, you give yourself a better chance because we can fast track on how to find those deals, right?
Right.
So in our program, I can teach someone a marketing method that I can put them in front of property owners in less than a month, right? Speaking to them, trained up in less than a month. And I developed that over the course of years and working with a lot of students and doing my own deals. And so it took a long time to perfect and to grow that process. But for the average person, this is people, incoming students always ask me this question: Peter, your best student or best students, right? What attribute do they have? I go, that's an easy answer. The answer is perseverance. They persevered. When the seller said, no, I don't want to buy your property, when their deal dropped out of contract, when the financing didn't come through, none of those guys and girls gave up. And by the way, my most successful students are women. I can't explain why.
Perseverance.
Yeah.
I know in my family, my wife is she's got perseverance to spare. So that's,
for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's good.
And also too, another thing too is it doesn't matter, Darren, how much money you have, right? So our most successful students don't come into our program with $1 gazillion, not even $1 million, not even $500,000, not even $250,000, right? The most successful students come in wanting it really badly, right? Wanting to be successful, willing to be coachable, right? Willing to do all the work that I put in front of them. And so having the most amount of money does not qualify you as the potential to be most successful. Not the case in this business.
No, that's awesome. The desire and want is kind of the key ingredient there to actually make it happen. And that's I find that to be so true. Can you provide an example of somebody you've worked with, a student, and possibly some of the strategies or how a success story on how somebody's kind of traveled their path? Sure.
I have so many. So let's see. All right. So I spoke with one of our students. Her name is Vicky. Right. She's she came to me and she just got divorced. Right. And it was not a good divorce. It was a bad divorce where there was abuse there, and I felt really bad for her. She was a single mom. But she wanted to invest in commercial real estate. She really loved apartments, right? So we said, okay, let's go. Let's get busy. So I helped her. I taught her how to analyze, how to evaluate, how to set up financing. And by the way, she just had maybe $40,000 in a credit line. That's all she had, right? But she wanted to buy large pieces of commercial real estate. So I'm not going to poo-poo on your parade. I'm just going to give you all the methods on strategies on how to do that, and you have to go out there and do it. She did it, Darren. She went out there, and I can say that today she owns a 64-unit property in Texas. She lives in California. She flies there every month. Her job allows her to fly different places. So she's able to fly there every month. She's actually there right now interviewing property managers, a new property manager. And how she raised the money, one of her clients in her business, she was really close to it. She knew for many, many years, is sitting a lot of stock brokerage money and was getting hammered in the stock market. And she mentioned to him that, she's in a program with me And so make a long story short, he funded her entire down payment, and now they're 50-50 partners, right? So Darren, we bought this. She couldn't qualify for, no, I'm sorry, the property couldn't qualify for financing because it was about 50% occupied. It was in great shape, right? But 50% occupied. The owner was a lender out in Texas, very wealthy lender, not too concerned about this property, and it just underperformed, and he didn't really care about it. So she was able to buy it with creative financing. We call this a master lease agreement. She was able to buy it that way, and it was a 2-year agreement. So in 2 years, she had to bust her butt, get the occupancy up, fix some things, stabilize the property, so the property could afford permanent financing. Right. So to make a long story short, she did all that, and she was able to, at the end of the day, create $1 million in equity, where the property was able to not only pull out her entire down payment, but pull out extra. Right. So she went from, putting no money in herself, her investor. She still has $40,000 in her credit line, but now she's a millionaire, because the property is worth $2 million more than what she paid for it 3 years ago.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And she was a great student. I mean, she would just call me, and she would be on the calls, and she would just do everything I told her to do. She was great. Now, Darren, she was a person that wanted it very badly. Okay?
Right.
Very badly. Very badly. So that's a key ingredient. How bad do you want it?
Right. No, that's awesome. In just out of curiosity, how long was it from when you first started working with her to her closing her first deal?
Let's see. I would say about it was a little more than a year, and the reason why, we had the property under contract for 4 months, and the contract process was excruciating because of the seller. Excruciating.
Gotcha.
But we knew we had a great deal. On our hands, we couldn't let it go. So there was lots of legal fees there. There's some. We had several agreements, leases. There were a lot of moving pieces in that property, and that's why you need a mentor. Just the due diligence part. And she's a beginner, right? She only owns her single family home. She's a beginner, and just the due diligence, took about 85 to 90 days just to due diligence. So there's no way she could do that by herself.
Yeah, no, and I want to, I guess the thing that I'm hearing and just kind of reiterate is the, master lease. I think if most people left to their own devices would assume that, okay, I've got to come up with a down payment. I got to find financing. If you've never borrowed for commercial, you're thinking about like a residential loan where they're looking at you and your ability to pay. And like you said, this property wouldn't even qualify for financing. So clearly, with your experience and insight and ability to kind of navigate that path, I can't imagine that Vicki would have been able to do that on her own based on just, there were several challenges there, which you're with what you shared there. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And from there, I got to know the son. He's a great kid. And now he wants to start doing what his mom is doing. So this year they closed another small apartment building and he did everything himself, right? Did everything himself. He's learned from his mom. A small deal. And guess what? He raised the money from co-workers too.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, so they're doing really well now. So it's very, very gratifying to help someone who's come from that background and treated unfairly and, lost in the courts with the husband. And now she's back on top and she's feeling really good about herself. Yeah,
no, the all the way around, that's an awesome story. I appreciate you sharing that with us. Just looking here, is for somebody that is, looking for a mentor, is there any kind of a, I'm trying to think of like when you're trying to identify somebody for a good fit, is there any kind of advice or things that you would recommend they look for when considering a mentor to work with?
Sure. Yeah, I've been mentoring since 2003, and been part of several mentoring programs myself. Some good, some bad, some great, right? And myself, starting out 2003, just learning the ropes myself, and so I come up with several standards. I think anyone, including my students or anyone even thinking about working with me, anyone should pay attention to these things. Number one is the mentor should have a track record of success, right? Actually own lots of commercial real estate. That's really important. And the reason why is operations. You heard me say that word before, right? So commercial real estate is a business. It's not a single family home where you have one tenant. You have a business. You have a staff. You have city laws and ordinances you got to pay attention to. You have housing laws. You have utilities. You have all these things to pay attention to, budgets and all that. And so number one, have a track record of success and actually own real estate. Number two is the mentor needs to be available, right? And he really does. I found this out because I realized that my clients, my students, are about to make their biggest, most expensive purchase in their lives, right? How dare I back off when they close their deal, or when they're about to make an offer and negotiate? How dare I not be available for this biggest purchase they're about to make in their lives? So number two is being available, and number three is a small detail but really important, right? I believe every mentor, the majority of their income should come from commercial real estate deals and not mentoring, right?
Right.
They should own a bunch of stuff, right?
Right.
Because they should be able to do a deal and create some training in how they did the deal. And that's what we do here. And everything you see on YouTube is from good and bad deals I've done over the course of my life, right?
Right.
Number four is I believe the mentor must be a good teacher, right? Must be a good teacher, because when they come in, we do call them students, right? And we should be the teacher. So you have to teach them, right? And there's, attributes of a good teacher and a bad teacher. I won't go into that, but you have to be a good teacher. And number five is, and this is helped us be really successful. I believe the mentor should be somehow invested with the student, right? So what we do is we share in the profits for our student. They pay a tuition, and then that allows them and us to share in the profits, right? So if they make no money, we make no money. And our business is not viable unless we make money. So we bust our butts to make sure our students are successful so everyone can make money, right? So there's an investment on each side.
Can I ask you, so on a tuition, is it a fixed, or is it based on a deal, or how do you you mentioned that you want them to be successful in order for you to be successful, they're successful. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, there's a tuition for them to come in, right? And first of all, they go through an extensive interview process. In our mentoring company, I'm the only coach. I don't trust anyone else making these big decisions for these people's lives. So I'm the only coach. That means I can't coach 100 people a year. It's just impossible, right? I have my own deals, family, and things I like to do. So there's a select number of people that we choose every year. They go through an interview process, and they make it in, great. They make it in, there's a tuition to pay up front. We call that a retainer, right? Mm-hmm. And then what we do is we split profits 50-50 up to $250,000.
All right.
Right. So once they make $250,000, the split goes away, and they keep everything 100%, even though I'm still helping them close deals.
Gotcha.
So we are invested. So if they make no money and don't close, we make none either.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. I was hoping we would touch on that, on how that works. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And the last thing is find a mentor that's a complete mentor, right? And, students are not a number. They're human beings with stories, with desires, with goals, with, things they want to do with their lives. And so what I mean by that is, of course, a mentor can teach you to evaluate how to find deals, financing, creative financing, etc. But a complete mentor will show you and stick with you how to operate the property. I talked about that before, or manage the management, right? And I can tell you, Darren, from all these years, that's where the big money's made, right? I'll go into a small detail, but really important detail, right? Sure. This is something technical. And net operating income, NOI, right? You're very familiar with it.
Yep.
That is the driver in commercial property evaluation. As the NOI goes up for a fixed cap rate, property value goes up, right? If you are a poor operator, NOI drops, guess what? Property value drops.
Right.
So we try to find deals where the NOI is suppressed for whatever reason, right? Old owner, dilapidated building or other motivations. And we go in and we buy it conventionally or creatively, and we boost up the NOI until we can make the property worth a lot. That can take 1 or 2, 3 years, but it's worth it.
Right.
So being a complete mentor means even going to that detail, right? Teaching them that every dollar on the NOI, right, creates $8 to $10 of property value, right? We teach those minute things.
No, that is very true, and I think it's one of the things I love most about commercial real estate is that ability to affect the NOI.
Yep.
As opposed to in the residential where it's basically comp driven, and whatever the neighbor's house is selling for is just about what yours should sell for. So, that's awesome. Hey, Peter, just looking, we're kind of we've been going along here, and just want to make sure I'm respectful of your time. Just to kind of summarize, what is the one thing you would recommend our listeners do in order to have success when selecting or working with a real estate mentor?
The one thing I would say, when working with a mentor, I would say, I talked about the first group and the second group, and the first group being, you own it by default, or inheritance, or things like that. We just want to do one deal, right? I'm not your guy, right? So, right. But if you want to make impact in your family financially, if you want to do it big time, do it full time, and then I hopefully if there's a match, I'm the person, right? But I only want to work with people that really, really want it, So I'm older now, Darren, and everything I do in my life, I want to have meaning. I don't do it for the money, and I don't want a person coming in and just tell me, Peter, I just want to get rich. That's not my client, right? You tell me, Peter, I don't have a retirement. Peter, I have 4 kids, and they're going to college in 6 years. I love those type of clients, right? Peter, I never had anything in my life, and I saw your videos. I believe I can do this. I believe in that type of person, because that's where I came from, right? So I want a person like that, right? So if that's you, but my website where I have all the videos and training is commercialpropertyadvisors.com. So that's where I have all my training, my YouTube videos, and you can sign up there, and we'll contact you, right? commercialpropertyadvisors.com.
Awesome. I was going to ask you for that if you didn't, so I appreciate you sharing that. And I can testify, I've been on there, and your site is just full, jam-packed with great information. In fact, I think the first time a couple of years ago I found you, there was a something about I think it was NOI. There was kind of a downloadable thing that you had there, and I remember being able to take it and explain to my wife, and she could read it, and it was easy to understand. And so for that. Not that my wife is entirely, she's way smarter than me, but my ability to explain it to her was lacking. And so I just want to say you're Your stuff's awesome, and I really appreciate you developing it and having your site and being available. And it's been great talking with you again. I wish you all the success, and look forward to talking again soon.
Thanks, Darren. I really appreciate it. And may I also say, I've watched your podcast grow from the beginning to now, and you're making a huge impact out there. So whatever you're doing, keep on doing it. It's working.
All right. Well, I appreciate the kind words. And again, that you agreed to come back, because in the beginning, like I said, it was always kind of a little bumpy there, but that's part of it. So we're glad to be doing it, and glad you came back. All right. For our listeners, if you like the show, share it with someone you know. It's easy to do. You can use the share button and share Peter's information and all the information we talked about with real estate mentoring. That's all we've got this week. Until next time, thanks for listening to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CREPN Radio.
You're listening to CREPN Radio for influential commercial real estate professionals. For more information on this or any of our guests, like us on Facebook, CREPN Radio.